the Good morning and welcome to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
A couple of days away from Thanksgiving, and certainly lots to be thankful for, and some things we need to be praying to be thankful for.
Yes, absolutely, Bill. And there's been some interesting things going on. And yesterday, of course, the president turns 81.
Mm-hmm. His cake looked like the Chicago fire.
Is he the oldest president we've ever had?
Yes.
Yes, that's exciting.
I think he was the oldest when he was inaugurated.
I believe you're correct.
He was about as old as when Reagan was leaving office. He was that age. And they were always talking about how old President Reagan was, and he wasn't qualified for the job. How times have changed. Yes, sir.
Yes, well, and yesterday he pardoned some turkeys. I believe Liberty and Bell, I believe, are the two that he pardoned yesterday. Getting confused.
He's pardoned lots of turkeys.
I don't even want to know.
Yeah, was that? Are you talking about the confusion of an entertainer?
Yeah, Britney Spears, Taylor Swift. He wasn't really sure what he was talking about yesterday.
Or like every other day.
Yes. He should not be put in front of a teleprompter. He should not be put out anywhere. He's gotten really. I think we're seeing it get progressively worse. He also abruptly left yesterday. It was very odd.
Did you see the situation when Xi Jinping Ricochet Rabbit was here, that he got up in the middle of somebody's speech and started going over and talking to him,
shaking his hand?
Yeah. And according to the word that we got from the media, he doesn't speak. Doesn't speak English.
Really? That's kind of surprises me.
Well, it surprises me too. That's one of the words we heard.
Way before now.
But nevertheless, it wouldn't have made any difference because I'm sure Biden went over to.
Yeah, he probably was just like, I don't speak Bidenese either.
Yeah.
But oddly enough, they also decided that it was going to be the Transgender Day of Remembrance. Why? I mean, so his birthday, which is quite interesting, is also now
the Transgender Day of Remembrance. Well, isn't that a coincidence?
Yeah. And Karine Jean-Pierre yesterday was just, giving it to us as far as, number one, she kept saying how healthy the president was and how wise and how wonderful he was, which everyone was just like, one of the videos that I saw of her talking about it, they had painted a clown face on her. It was pretty funny.
Yeah,
love the internet.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, because you start listening to her and brain cells start dying. So it's just unbelievable. Also this morning, we're going to be talking about the able child. This is something that is extremely vital for you with the school. I saw a commercial the other day, Brittany, that said school will be starting soon. I said, well, exactly where are you living?
Yeah.
but school is in. They're getting ready for the holiday break, or winter break. God forbid we call it Christmas anymore.
Yeah.
But able child is something that is vital that you need to know about. So tell all your friends, share this on all of your social media pages, because this is a lady and an organization that is trying to save your children from all the psychotropic drugs and everything else. Every time we have these mass shootings these days, especially with young kids, they always want to go after the guns. They never seem to want to go after all the narcotics and everything else and all the other prescription medicine that they've been given over the years has anything to do with it.
Yeah, and Sheila Matthews is quite amazing. I was super grateful that she was willing to come on the show, and so very excited to talk to her.
So that's coming up.
Yes, but back to our friends in the White House. I wonder, this Transgender Day of Remembrance, number one, how do you keep all these days straight anymore? I mean, it's gotten to the point that because we have so much of this, none of it really means anything. But Karine Jean-Pierre explaining what this day means.
Yeah.
Now, today, on Transgender Day of Remembrance, we grieve the 26 transgender Americans who were killed this year. Year after year, we see that these victims are disproportionately Black women and women of color. No one should face violence live in fear, or be discriminated against simply for being themselves. As the president said, there's still more to do to meet the promise. And it's why this administration has taken urgent action to strengthen rights and protect the safety of transgender Americans and all LGBTQ plus Americans. As we mourn the loss of lives that have been taken too soon, we must also recommit ourselves to never stop fighting until all Americans can live free from the discrimination and also from hate.
Quite interesting, especially since we just saw the Nashville shooter stuff come out, and now we have this transgender day of remembrance, but then they also said these are mostly black women, which I was confused about.
Yeah, and what difference does it make? And if it wanted to protect Americans, how about closing the border? Okay? Because we have all these illegal aliens coming in here. We have no idea who they are, and we have a great feeling that a lot of these are terrorists and other combatants that are coming in here, gang members and everything else. We have no vetting process whatsoever. And shame on the Republicans who voted not to impeach Mayorkas.
Have you heard any good argument for why they voted not to?
And they said there's something like not enough evidence or something, nothing compelling evidence. How much compelling evidence do you need?
I think we have enough people for 4 Nebraskas.
Yeah.
Is that what I heard?
Exactly.
So that's really something. I also saw that a lot of the people that are coming in from over the border are actually sleeping. I mean, it's getting cold up north. I mean, we are so blessed in the South. I know that you are not necessarily a big fan of always having 80-degree weather, but I love it.
I just like seasons.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I miss fall and spring. I don't miss winter. But I do, like, it is very cold when you're headed up north now.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't miss winter if it was 12 degrees and had to shovel snow to get out of the house. Yeah, that wouldn't do it for me.
No.
Yeah.
But they're sleeping on the streets. There's not enough resources. And then you also, man, there's so much stuff happening. But
you see some of the Venezuelans that want to go back home?
Yeah. Well,
how bad does it have to be? You want to go back to Venezuela?
Well, yeah, those people are not used to the cold. So if you send them up north, they're probably like, this is for the birds. But we have Cardi B coming out this week and saying, I'm never endorsing another president because there was that whole thing where, she was convinced to endorse Biden and, help with his voting base. But she's saying they're cutting schools and libraries. The libraries will no longer be open on the weekends. I don't know about you, Bill, but that's when people have time.
That's when people have time to go to the library. Yeah.
So they're closing
those down during the rest of the week.
Exactly, and they're cutting the sanitation, and that's what Cardi B was like. We already are a dirty city. If this when they do this, it's going to be so disgusting here. When they cut, I think they're cutting it by 40% or something.
It's awful. The
sanitation. So a bunch of stuff they're making cuts for because they need to support all these illegal aliens coming into the country. And I don't know, Bill. I think it's going to get real ugly.
It is. And how bad does it have to get before we do something about it? Dan Bongino keeps asking that same question all the time. Apparently, it hasn't gotten bad enough because they're still voting for Democrats.
Yes.
They're still voting for the people who got you here.
And Mary McCann Hybrider's with us this morning, and she says, let's have a fentanyl victims day of remembrance. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Absolutely.
That actually means something, and I know a lot of people who have been impacted by this, and not because their kid was using fentanyl, but because someone gave them something, like they had a headache and they gave them something, and one pill and they're done. So very, very sad thing going on with the fentanyl in this country. And
more is pouring in all the time. But there is light at the end of the tunnel, because when Xi Jinping was here, the president made a deal with him to quit sending all this stuff.
Oh, yeah, I think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't believe it. Steve Stanton Sr. says, oldest form of warfare on behalf of the White House, divide and conquer. Yep,
exactly.
And
so we're so concerned about the security of these trans people, and suddenly they are the one. It goes back to the old joke, and it used to be funny, but it's how the New York Times would report the end of the world.
Oh, yeah.
You heard that story?
No.
Where a God comes to one of the New York Times reporters and says, "I'm ending the world day after tomorrow." And the headline of the New York Times the next day was "World to End Tomorrow: Women and women and minorities worst affected."
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
They're great at reporting, aren't they? And Lizzie Warren says Mayor Adams is cutting the police budget because of the cost of being a sanctuary city. That's the beauty of this too. It's kind of poetic justice when you look at how they, were so excited to be sanctuary cities until they actually had to, in action, they had to be sanctuary cities, and now they can't afford it.
Well, come on down to Savannah because Johnny Wiltshire, our sheriff here, is about 250 deputies short. So he says, and the job, by the way, starts at $42,000, and all the overtime that you want. He's got some deputies that are making six figures.
Yeah, and Johnny Wiltshire he's a great guy.
Yeah.
So not a bad person to work for either.
Yeah. And in fact, all of our police departments are recruiting. So
come on down to
Savannah. Come on down. Yeah, weather's fine.
We're going to replace our DA so that your job gets easier too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Steve Stanton Sr., Argentina did something big about it. Yes, Argentina. I'm excited to see what happens there. He's a very pragmatic guy and very aggressive and definitely not politically correct, which I kind of enjoy. But he's full of energy, and I'm excited for those people because I believe their inflation was up 150%, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
And so since
it got bad enough in Argentina for them
since 2020.
Yeah,
like that's crazy.
Yeah,
it has not gotten that bad here, but I hope people are waking up because if you go to the grocery store, especially for Thanksgiving, things are costing a lot more than they did last year.
Well, and let me, give kudos. I think it's Walmart and Aldi's and maybe some others, maybe even Kroger, have said that they actually have cut prices for Thanksgiving. They've gone back to 2020 prices or something along those lines on a lot of their products for the essentials that we have for Thanksgiving. So good on them for doing that. But that's not sustainable. I mean, the corporation, the companies, believe me, the socialists don't understand this. If you never darken the door of an economy class, is companies have to make a profit in order to stay in business. So it's not something that is evil. It is something that is required. It is necessary if you want to improve facilities, if you want to get better stock in your stores or whatever it is. Companies have to make a profit.
Yes, they do. And the good thing about the guy that was just elected in Argentina, he's an economist.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So he's going to be able to figure that out, I hope.
Yeah.
And
the late, great Rush Limbaugh used to say, I live in Realville.
Yeah. Well, the sad thing is, so do we. And Janet Yellen is saying people just don't understand all the progress and all the things that the White House has done.
Yeah.
A recent poll by the New York Times and Siena College finding 59% of voters under 30 rate the economy as poor. So, philosophically and sort of intellectually, you can look at a lot of these numbers and say, this is a great economy in so many ways on a relative basis to history and the like. But at the same time, you have poll numbers and others saying that they don't feel it.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. And I think it's our job to explain to Americans what President Biden has done to improve the economy. That's
going to take a while.
I haven't really seen that, but
did you hear him the other day when he said that he'd cut inflation by 65%? I mean, I don't know what planet this guy's living on, or who writes this stuff down. And I guess there are a lot of people who think, well, if he says it, then it's true, because he still has like a 40% approval rating, which is one of the lowest in history. But who are the stupid 40%?
They're probably the bots on the internet. That's all I can think. I have no idea.
Yeah.
The other thing is it makes you wonder if they're doing it for the history books, not for us. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, very interesting stuff. But coming up next, we're going to be talking to Sheila Matthews. And again, this stuff is mind-blowing that we've allowed all of this stuff to happen in our schools. And it starts to make sense as we talk to Sheila Matthews.
Able child on deck. Stay real. Foxy Loxy, Coffee Fox, and Henny Penny, making life better for Savannahans with their kolaches, tacos, coffees. They're just amazing. Buy local and keep the torch lit. Greetings.
I'm Brittany Brown.
I'm Bill Edwards.
We're the co-hosts of Get Real America.
We're the CEO and the president of something we call the Local Spin, and there's a reason we call it the Local Spin.
We want to cover stories that really impact your life at the local level. Don't have a local business? No problem. If you know people that have a local business, make sure you reach out to them and let them know that they should advertise on our show.
Our rates are extremely reasonable, a lot better than you find in most of the media in this town, and you will get results. I promise. You will be investing in something that's important.
If you don't have the ability to donate, make sure you like our page and share it with your friends. Have you always wanted to own a local media company? Well, now's your opportunity.
Here we are.
Make sure you become an investor today. Make sure that you go to thelocalspin.com/GRA and donate there. We want to provide an evening and morning news to you in a way that you've never seen before, but we need your help.
Yeah, this is something that what NPR said that they were supposed to be. NPR gets something in the range of $450 million of your tax money every year to slant the news the way they want to and to not cover stories that they need to be covering.
You need local media. Make sure to check us out and donate today. Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
And it's a pleasure to
Introduce Sheila Matthews. She is the person in charge of ablechild.org.
Thank you so much for having Able Child on. Yes, we are delighted to be in your company. We're looking forward to educating the country on this issue.
Well, the country could use a lot of education these days, Sheila. We found that out. You know, the New York Times is complaining about the fact that this pandemic has cost us a lot of brain cells, shall we say? And the same paper that was screaming at people for putting kids in school 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
So Sheila, tell us a little bit about ablechild.org. What are you guys doing, and what is your goal?
Sure. Able Child was created by myself and another mom whose our children were targeted for ADHD. And so we've been at this since both our children were about 7. I have to say, time flies by, and that's why it's really important to focus on this for the next generation. But my son and my partner who co-founded this, her son is about just hit 30 mark. So we've been at this for over 20 years. And what we do is informed consent regarding psychiatric drugs. And so we want the consumer and parents to know all the information before they place their children on these narcotics, these Schedule II drugs, these mind-altering drugs. And so that is our mission. We're Parents for Label and Drug-Free Education. So that's our mission.
That's amazing, because I think we're seeing a lot more talk about, you know, a lot of these drugs, the SSR1s and things like that, because of some of the school shootings that have happened, and, you know, the fact that they've been traced to being on those drugs. And so what was your experience? Did you end up putting your child on, or were you able to navigate that?
Thank God Patricia Weathers spoke up. I saw her testifying before Congress when they wanted to expand mental health into the school systems. This was over 20 years ago. And I never placed my son on psychiatric drugs. And today he is successful. He is actually an entrepreneur, and he really thrived with tutoring and other dietary changes, everything natural. He did a really great job in life so far. And Able Child wants to help other parents that are dealing with this navigate the system, because right now we have a monopoly with the mental health industry through the Association of School Psychology. And it's actually everywhere in our society, and they're really becoming toxic places for these mass shootings, or we like to refer to them as mass murders. So, I never did place my son on psychiatric drugs because another mother saved me. And that's what we want to do, mother to mother, mother to father, father to father. We have some fathers who are involved in Able Child. So they're drugging everyone, and it's a monopoly. It's $1 billion industry, and it is now, we've kind of pushed them off for many years. People don't realize the work that we've done to keep the mental health clinics out of schools. So now we're faced with this, new infiltration.
Sheila, you would think decent human beings would be, especially psychiatrists or psychologists, would be aware of the damage that things like this could do. And I don't object to any corporation or company or person wanting to make more money and increase corporate profits and things of that nature so they can hire more people and make drugs that might be useful to society, in which many are. But to actually do this to kids on purpose, one would think that people wouldn't do this, especially in America. But then again, I've been to Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Museum in Israel, and when you see what other human beings can do to one another, you say, how could this possibly happen? And yet it does.
Totally. And basically, Able Child was created off of President Eisenhower's able child. And what President Eisenhower wanted to do with these children that were struggling in schools was give them more educational resources in math and science. So Able Child strongly confronts, and we charge the psychiatric industry with fraud regarding the identification of these children. We'd love to be heard in Congress. We'd love to be heard in a court of law, because these grants were diverted to the mental health industry. And, the children that are identified as ADHD, that's a voted disorder by psychiatrists. They voted that in. There's no blood tests, there's no brain scans. And so our child has the same characteristics as this ADHD child. So the Eisenhower grants were geared towards children who were struggling and weren't achieving where they needed to go, but they were gifted in all sorts of different areas, mathematics. I mean, even if you look at the autism spectrum, a lot of the spectrum is growing and growing. These checklists are growing and growing, but some of these children have magnificent gifts. And our country really needs these children, and we don't want them drugged up on a cocktail of drugs. And so we challenge this ADHD checklist. We believe that it's fraudulent, and our children are dying in foster care from cocktails of drugs. They're hanging themselves, and they're committing these awful, awful crimes of mass killings.
I'm just going to say, excuse me, but I was just going to say the naivete of a parent sometimes, and this goes back to, I think, our educational system that has been failing us for about 4 decades or more now. But the tenuous logic that if the doctor, this psychiatrist or psychologist says that this is good for the kid, they're professional. They must know what they're doing. So we got to go along with this.
We don't have to go along with it. Absolutely not. We can challenge them. We don't have to believe in the psychiatric industry. Doctors are being cheated here too, because there's underlying medical issues that might be happening to this child, and psychiatry and the behavioral health industry has all of a sudden, crowned themselves as these experts. And quite frankly, if you look at the mass shootings in Parkland, Nicholas Cruz, who committed that horrific murder, he was drugged on a cocktail of drugs all the way up through foster care. And he was seen by a behavioral health vendor by the state called Henderson Behavioral Health. And they deemed him not a harm to himself or anyone else. And this was before he committed this massive murder. So their checklists don't work. They're not valid. There's no science behind them. And it's time that we start speaking out. And I could tell you there's other mothers out there that we need to hear from you, that your child was diagnosed by this checklist. It's a checklist. It's not anything medical, you know?
So how are these, you said that there are these associations that are going into the schools. How are they able to get access and how are they targeting the kids?
Very good question. It's the Association of School Psychology. And basically, the Association of School Psychology is the only association that's allowed into public schools. It has a monopoly. And they have deemed themselves experts. They don't allow, they are the arbitrator, they are like the uh, self-appointed experts that can decide what tools come into the school regarding reading, regarding writing, regarding curriculum. And this stems through a lot of different organizations that are fighting this identification of sexuality, of targeting these children. This is all stemming through that one association. They have a monopoly in our schools, and we need to either overthrow them or allow competition, into the schools.
Sheila, how about the teachers unions that apparently are going along with this as well, where they've decided now that in loco parentis is the way to go, that they know a lot more about how to educate and take care of kids than the parents do.
Well, the teachers, my sister's a teacher, and I believe that these unions are getting the same data from the mental health industry. So are our police forces and our military. Everybody is getting the same information from the mental health and behavioral health industry. It's $1 billion industry. So their goal is to get more and more people access to mental health. That's the way our legislation is set up. In schools, you're automatically, the government opts you in. So you're in these programs. You can't get out of them. That law needs to change. So the teachers unions, I believe, they have probably great benefits for the teachers, but these teachers unions are being indoctrinated by the psychiatry industry, the industry that is really very subjective. In order to be a psychiatrist, you go through the medical process, right? So you become a doctor, but then you have to go on. It's always been considered research. That's the thing. It's human research.
So when they're going into the schools, are they targeting just boys? Or are they targeting girls now? Because we're seeing a lot more of these female students with the gender dysmorphia and all of that stuff happening now. So are they now targeting them equally, or do you guys see anything related to the gender?
Well, they've always targeted boys, very active boys. I've raised two boys. They develop completely different than women do, and they have an innate you know, abilities physically and, mentally in different ways. So the boys have always been targeted. We used to call it, when I first started this work, it was a rail to jail. So the more of these kids that get diagnosed with attention deficit disorder are more likely to end up addicted on drugs and go to jail. And that's according to the Berkeley study. So they're gateway drugs. And as far as girls are concerned, girls are targeted as well. Girls that are tomboys, girls that speak out, girls that are defiant. I grew up, I was very defiant, and I think it has nothing to do with being mentally ill. I think it has to do with your development. So also the industry has the ability, they keep all the data. So they can manipulate this data. Right now in Tennessee, the mental health industry is after about $250 million for more mental health. And they are providing their own data. Nobody can question the data. And it's all based on questionnaires. It's all based on assessments. So they keep the data so they can manipulate it.
Wow, nice to be a member of the jury when you're on trial. Um, Sheila, exactly how complicit is the media in all this? They don't cover the news; they cover up the news. We still haven't seen much of that manifesto of the girl, boy, whatever it was, that shot up that private school near Nashville just a few months back, and the police officers, I think, who released even a couple of paragraphs from this manifesto, are being threatened with their jobs.
It's absolutely horrific. We have a crisis of mass murders in this country, and the police are more concerned about access to mental health. And they are taking the position of protecting the mental health industry. So in Tennessee, we know that the behavioral health vendors are working with the police. They are training the police officers how to deal with these people on their products, on the pharmaceutical products. So they're withholding the psychiatrists, they're withholding the mental health documents. And in Tennessee, two files were found in the police report. One was a medical file, which could contain the hormones and the treatment of the conversion to a different sex. And then the second folder was a mental health folder. I'm more interested in those than the manifesto. The manifesto is very important, but it tends to be used by the media to paint the person as like from a certain political party or from an ideology, but that is really the byproduct of what is in that person's body. And so we have that going on in Maine. The hearings today are starting in Maine from the governor Mills, who has put together she says it's an independent committee. I've been through this before with Sandy Hook, and they're not independent. They are the most extreme in the mental health field. We have a Dr. Na, who does electric shock ECT, which has been gone all the way up to the Supreme Court, is very abusive on the patients. He's on that committee. And then we have another woman who it does these violent checklists, which have been proven not to have any science. So the media is covering all this up because they have advertisement dollars attached to the pharmaceutical company, especially when it comes to psychiatric drugs.
Mhm. Yeah, I just amazed at all the the depression drugs that are being advertised these days. But I don't trust Governor Mills. She's a Democrat, and I don't trust that party because I think they're destroying America and how bad this is going to get. And it looks like the domino effect of this is having of a guy who's no longer in school, out of the military, and shot up a bunch of people.
Yes, well, Able Child has, our children are both Democrats and Republicans. We're a human rights organization, but we are really focused on President Eisenhower, who was a Republican. We work with Democrats as well, but we find that President Eisenhower's Able Child is really the identity we want to focus on, because deficits, even if you look at attention deficit, why would you ever want to focus on deficits of children instead of their gifts? And I just think that it's indicative of where our country has gone regarding these cocktail of drugs.
Well, they're good at deficits. The government's good at deficits.
Yes, they are. Well, so, we're hearing all of this. One of the things that you mentioned was that you're basically opted into this. So what happens if you try to get your child out of it, and what are the things that people can do to take action today?
Well, that's also very important for parents to know is that there is a senator, he's since passed, Senator Orrin Hatch from Utah, and he created a letter that parents can put in their folders called the Hatch Amendment. You can find it on Able Child's website. And so, what parents I recommend that they do immediately is in the beginning of the school year, you opt out legally. You put this letter, you write it to and it covers the whole gender issue that we're fighting. It covers anything that violates your family core value, your religion, and especially the identification of your child psychologically. You can ask for educational supports and tutoring and math and science and that sort of thing, but you put this in your folder and you say, I'm opting out. My child's not to be allowed to participate in any of this. And then the school is required by law to provide alternative to your child. So parents can file this letter each year and you're opting out. So parents don't know that. You're automatically opt-in by the government until we can change that fundamental federal law under pupils' rights, which is, I think it's chapter 20 of the US Code. We want to make sure that we can change that, but in the meantime, file this letter in your child's folder.
Well, we'd like to continue this conversation at another time. We appreciate you. You've been very generous with yours today. Can we continue this discussion? Because I have a feeling that this problem's not going to go away in the next week or two.
It won't go away. And that's why I encourage people to support Able Child, because we're here for you. It's not for me. My children are grown. So we're going to be working hopefully with different legislators across the aisle to get some real informed consent and stop some of these mass shooters that the FBI is incapable of doing. So we look forward to working with you both, and thank you so much for having Able Child on.
Yes, ma'am. I don't know how many more times we're going to have to see this movie before we get it solved. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And if people want to support you, where can they go?
Right.
They could go to ablechild.org, and we have a donation page, and we really, really value those donations. We are not funded by the federal or state government. We work for the consumer. Yeah, we don't take any grants.
Well, you're doing the Lord's work, Sheila. Thank you. Have a happy Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas.
Thank you. You too, both of you. God bless you.
Likewise.
Thanks, Sheila. Have a good day.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance, with integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Foxy Loxy, Coffee Fox, and Henny Penny, making life better for Savannahans with their kolaches, tacos, coffees. They're just amazing. Buy local and keep the torch lit.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Glad to have you aboard on this rainy Tuesday, but a couple of days away from Thanksgiving. And tomorrow we're going to continue our series on Shop with a Cop. We'll talk about that later, but about meeting the chief. And we'll meet Chief Jeff Hadley of the Chatham County Police Department coming up tomorrow. But like any other police department, they're having trouble recruiting.
Imagine that.
And so is the military.
Yes, they are.
Hard to believe.
I mean, Not really. When they decided that you either had to get a vaccine or you had to get out of the military. Now, I believe that they're begging people to come back. So
How
there were
ironic is
letters.
this? Yeah, I'd like them to come back, but I'd also like them to get all their back pay that they deserve, and at least a letter of apology from the president on down, and the DOD chairman, as well as the head of what is it, Lloyd Austin? Is the chairman of the Department of Defense. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, Bill. They're not coming back. I would not go back under this commander in chief.
No, absolutely not.
He is, number one. He's using emergency powers for a lot of things that he shouldn't be using it for, and dictating what these people have to do with their lives, including this vaccine thing that was a total boondoggle, which we all found out later. And I just here and now we have the soldier that has put out a video saying, this is what your government is about, and this is what they're doing to me.
Mm-hmm.
I want to share something with you guys today. I want to holler, I want to scream, I want to yell, but it won't do any good. Today is gear turn-in day for me. I turn in all the gear that I've collected over the last 4 years of being active duty with the Army, with the 82nd Airborne Division. 2 years ago, my unit deployed to Afghanistan for the Afghanistan withdrawal. We spent a few weeks over there. It was hectic, it was chaotic, it was disgusting, and it made me very disappointed in our government. Today, I'm reminded of how disappointed I am in our government. Go to turn in my gear. They want to charge me $500 to $1,000 for gear that I was ordered to leave in Afghanistan 2 years ago. Because as the last two birds were sitting on the tarmac, ready to leave, there wasn't any room for extra gear or extra weight. Therefore, we were told to leave it. Some lower enlisted dudes, including myself, were like, no, this stuff is expensive. I'm not leaving this. I'm going to get charged for this when it comes time to leave. Don't worry. We're going to catch you on the back end. We'll flipple it. No. It's time to get out of the Army, and they want to charge you for that. Meanwhile, we can continue to give millions of dollars to the Taliban. We can give billions of dollars to Ukraine. We can give billions of dollars to student debt relief. We can give a bunch of stupid stimulus checks. We can cut those to the American people. But we can't cover $500 to $1,000 for a dude that left gear in Afghanistan, for a dude that left gear in a place that you put me to begin with. The government is so stinking backwards right now, man. This administration's last priority is the American people. And inside of the American people, their last priority is their soldiers, their Marines, their airmen, their Navy. It's so messed up, man. I thought today was going to be bittersweet getting out. But I'm just so happy to separate. I'm very, very excited to stop serving my government and just getting started serving my country. It's sad. Today is November 20th. This is the amount they want to hit me with leaving service, $3,561. I'm not asking for help, but if you wanted to help, I would greatly appreciate it. I'm going to swallow my pride for the sake of my family and post my Venmo in the comments. Thank you so much.
All right, something needs to be done about this immediately, if not sooner.
Pretty disgusting.
I don't know where this guy is, but he needs to get in touch with his congressmen and his senators and get this straightened out.
Yeah.
This is pathetic.
I don't know how, with how Afghanistan went, how they could even attempt to charge someone, especially since, is Biden picking up the tab on all the tanks he left?
Mm-hmm.
Like, who's picking up that tab?
Yeah. Are the tank commanders having to pay for those tanks?
Don't know, Bill.
All the stuff that we left, by the way, that the Taliban and others are using now against us. Some of and just the night vision goggles. A lot of top secret security stuff in those contained in those things too. That's just unbelievable how stupid these people are and how callous they are with American lives. And you're having trouble recruiting? Well, gee, what a surprise.
I know. Do you think when you see this video, you're like, oh, you know what? I want to be in the military.
Yeah,
They
I
seem
want
like
to. I want to
stand-up
join the
people.
Army in case and send me to the Middle East where our bases are being attacked and we're not retaliating.
Yeah.
So there's a possibility I could get injured or killed, and our government's not going to do anything about it because we might offend somebody.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, they've come out with a new recruitment ad, and it turns out that, I don't think DEI is actually working for recruitment. So here's what they came up with.
Mm-hmm.
They're back to be all you can be, Bill.
Yeah, and we do more before 9 o'clock than most people do all day. Nice to see that as the recruiting message now. The one that the Navy had recently, where they were showing all of these trans people that were twerking and dancing on these submarines, and saying, come on and join the Navy.
I don't think that worked for them, did it?
No, it didn't.
Maybe they
As a matter
pivoted
of
for
fact.
the Army.
Yeah. So good on the Army for coming up with something like that. But again, you want to serve under this administration, this president, this guy's going to get charged $3,000 to $5,000 for equipment he was ordered to leave behind.
Yep. I mean,
I saw that my wife was looking on her social media last night. Said, you got to order this T-shirt, and it had a big M4 on it, and it said, "I'm not going to take any advice on gun control from an administration that gave all those guns away to the Taliban."
I don't blame.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's true. That's true. They have done quite a number on us, I feel like. And, I'm concerned with the way that the world is right now. What are we going to do? We have, they say we don't have troops on the ground in Ukraine. They're lying. And now we have all these men over in Israel, these men and women, sorry. And, we have...
Even trans.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everyone's invited to go into the military,
Yeah.
And how are we going to handle this when our recruitment's down? You have all of these mass exodus from the COVID vaccine, and I'm sure that people that are in the military are not super happy with how inclusive they've been.
Yeah. And we've gotten the next bad thing, of course, is the New York Times headline on Sunday, in which they were saying that the problem that they've had in schools now, because of how much we've lost in education. We lost 2 decades of learning because of the shutdown, because of the COVID. And this is the same newspaper. Now, thank you for being a little late to the party, because you were saying 2 or 3 years ago that this was required, that this was necessary. We had to keep kids out of school. We had to put them in masks. And now all the evidence is coming up to the contrary, that this was the worst thing that we could have done and how far we are behind. And I can remember, Brittany, this is something we should have learned if you want to learn from the Chinese. This is something they learned 40 years ago when they eliminated grades in their education system. You got to pass fail type thing. And it set them back, they said, 20 years.
Well, not only that, I see all of these videos coming out of these classes where the students are filming the teachers because they're like, it's unbelievable. But they're learning pronouns. I mean, the ze, zer, him, it's ridiculous. And one of the kids asked this teacher, why do we need to learn this? And they're like, because, this is how the world is evolving. You need to know these things. And the kids are just like, they're not happy.
Well,
you have these kids learning things that they don't care about, and they're like, what does this have to do with real life? When I go home, my parents are not telling me what pronouns I need to use with the grocery store clerk. I mean, it's not valuable. The kids can see it because the kids are not stupid.
Well, and what's even worse is they're dropping the standards for everything. So that they're coming along and saying you have to, if you want the job, you got the job. If you want, so what bothers me is that the standards being dropped on airplane mechanics.
Mhm.
You want these people working on your airplane?
Sure don't.
You want these. You want this doctor operating on you, just because they went and got they read the book on they memorized Gray's Anatomy. Well, you can memorize the damn book if you want to. Applying that knowledge is a different thing. We always ask kids sometimes, what's the difference between wisdom and knowledge? Because it's not the same thing. You can know something, but you don't know how to do it. I can memorize Gray's Anatomy right now, but
Doesn't make you a doctor.
put the gown and the gloves on me and hand me a scalpel and say, all right, take this guy's cancer tumor out. Well, it's a different story. Okay, I know where it is. I know how to get there. What do I do when I get there?
Yeah. And Lizzie Warren's with us this morning, and she said, U.S. military being destroyed by Biden, who wants to be cannon fodder, and of course the vaccine exemption for separated troops is going to infuriate the ones who took it against their will. You're absolutely right. I mean, there is no winning with this military issue that they've created.
No.
I don't think that there's any way to get those troops back. And the people that did take the shot that are now experiencing things, not super happy.
Well, we not only don't know the people asking, how do you fix this? But the next big question is, what's the end game for these people? What are you gaining by letting thousands and thousands of illegal aliens into the country every day? They're going to vote for you? You're going to get Democrat voters out of this? Is that it? Because you've rigged the election now, so the Democrats are going to win anyway.
Well, I think Mary McCann Hybrider actually has the answer for us. She says, "Welcome to the land of mediocrity."
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what they've done.
We're penalizing excellence and we are rewarding failure.
Yes, we are. And I want to just jump back to our interview with Abel Child and Sheila Matthews, which they are doing amazing work. And I want to thank Steve Statton. He did go to their site and donate. He thinks that what they're doing is
Way to go, Steve.
great
You're
work.
a great American.
Yes, and he says surviving public is 10 times what it was since I went to school in the 60s and 70s, a byproduct of taking prayer out of school. And the list of, Mary McCann Hybrider says, the list of side effects on many of the drugs is very scary. And Steve Statton says they make you wonder how they got approved in the first place.
Exactly.
And
because every time you see these ads, and most of the ads that you see, this is something that Pam brought up to me the other day, my wife, as we were watching one of our shows, and she says, have you noticed that every one of just about 90% of the drugs that are advertised are antidepressants of some sort?
Yep. And well, here's the thing, Bill. Did you know that you're not allowed to feel sad? If you're going to a funeral and you're sad, you better pop a pill.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to process those feelings. We've gotten to the point in this country where it's better to be numb than to feel anything.
Well, you heard Stephen Friend, the FBI whistleblower from Savannah who addressed Ladies on the Right meeting last Thursday, was saying they now have happy time at the FBI.
Ridiculous.
You're told to say happy things, to be glad about something, and you're given 4 hours a week?
3 hours.
3 hours a week to go into this room where they've got recliners, and you can take part of the day off because you work so hard.
Absolutely ridiculous. And the Abel Child thing is I'm excited to have her back on the show because I think that there is so much we could dig into there. But I do think it's time for people to understand how much impact these associations and things are having. And it totally makes sense now to me why we're seeing all this craziness come from these schools and how it's being driven and why the drugs are being pushed. And I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of people are making a lot of money, Bill.
Sure are. It's unbelievable.
Well,
and it is sad that we're in this situation, and also frightening. Because these kids are not learning anything. I can attest to that. Over the years when I was in television, I was just appalled at the new kids coming in over the years that seemed to know practically nothing. You always hear, well, that's a separation of church and state stuff. I said, show me in the Constitution where there's a separation of church and state. And then I had to evaluate that blank stare for a minute or two.
Well, the good news is that the United States has now hit the highest ever childhood vaccine exemption rate in history, according to the CDC. So I think parents are understanding. I think COVID really backfired a little bit in this way. I think parents are waking up and they're looking at things as far as why did our vaccine schedule go from 12 to now 72 vaccinations that is required by the public schools for your kid to go to school. Who's making money off of that, and what kind of kickbacks are they getting? The amount of money involved here is astronomical. And you look at, number one, we pay taxes for schools, but so now are they getting kickbacks for all of this other stuff? It makes you wonder where all this money is going.
And boy, did they get a boatload of money during COVID.
They sure did,
and I'm not sure it's been spent yet, except maybe on the salary of for the head of the organizations, whether it's the National Teachers Association or the American Federation of Teachers.
Yes, and Mary McCann Hybreeder and Lizzie Warren says it's always about the money. And then Mary McCann Hybreeder says the childhood vaccine schedule is criminal. It sure is. I think that we've seen an increase in autism. They're starting to link some of that stuff. I mean, it's not good, Bill.
I had a friend that had a kid. You had to give him a pill in the morning so he'd get hungry, so he'd eat breakfast. Then you had to give him another pill so he wouldn't be hungry anymore. Then had to take another one before lunch. It just went on down the line. It was like, what are you doing to this child?
It's wild. And Lizzie Warren is asking a really good question right now. So are the illegals' children catching up on vaccines? There's a boatload of money right there.
Yeah.
Very interesting, but it seems that the illegals are exempt from a lot of the rules us Americans are required to follow. So
yeah, like showing IDs or anything of that nature, and just show up and
being here legally is the first thing, I guess. Being here legally is the first thing that they probably should follow the law about, but they're not required to.
Yeah.
And really quick before we close the day out, I do want to mention that there are some really big things happening. Number one, Elon Musk is suing Media Matters. For those of you that don't know what Media Matters is, it's a left-wing group that goes after conservative media and really tries to debunk.
They spend their time all day listening to conservative talk radio, watching Fox News, watching One Nation, watching Newsmax. They might even be watching us, and then they file these reports about what was wrong with what we said, what was incorrect, what was dangerous.
Well, they went after Twitter, and I don't think you want to play games when Elon is in charge. So what they had done was they showed a lot of these channels that were like white supremacists, like saying stuff that you don't want related to your company. So they put those ads side by side, but you're allowed to choose how your feed shows up. So they intentionally chose the feeds to work that way, and then basically got all of these people to go off of Twitter's platform. And so he's suing for that. Then on top of that, Ken Paxton, who is the wonderful attorney general in the state of Texas, who just beat his impeachment sham trial, he has decided that he is now investigating them for fraud. They do reside in the state of Texas, which I think was a big mistake for them, especially with Ken Paxton there. So I'm interested to see how that will play out. And then breaking last night, of course, we have True Social now going after 20 media companies for lying. And it's a defamation lawsuit. And, we have The Guardian, Hollywood Reporter, Miami Herald, Reuters, Rolling Stone, The Hill. There's a bunch of other ones, Axios, Forbes, New York Daily News, Newsweek, MSNBC, and Daily Mail, CNBC. There's 20 of them. I think that this is exciting because it's all hitting at once. And this is going to be, number one, they probably are not going to be able to afford the attorney fees now, Media Matters, because they have now Elon Musk and now Ken Paxton investigating. I think it's going to be real pricey for them.
We outnumber them. They wanted to try to make it sound like the other way around with the control of the DNC and the media, but I repeat myself, but we outnumber them. There's a lot to be thankful for here on Thanksgiving Eve.
Yes, I think that we are winning in a lot of ways. I think that there's a lot of things that need to be undone in this country, but we have fighters like Sheila Matthews. The work that she's doing is amazing. We have people that are willing to put their neck out there. You know, Bill and I sitting up here every day, giving our 2 cents on what's going on. I think, you know, we need more of that. We need more people speaking out and not being afraid to say something. If something's wrong, you need to speak up. And we're seeing more of that. And I'm very excited. And we do have a lot to be thankful for. We
do indeed. And we're going to be here as long as we can, but you can help us out, okay? Because we really need it. Once again, the media's power to ignore. I am still stunned and amazed that they didn't show up for Stephen Friend's presentation at Ladies on the Right, the FBI whistleblower from Savannah. Was, you know, and you would think that would be had been their lead story Thursday night. Not a single television station showed up. And yet companies here are spending tens of thousands of dollars advertising on these corporate-owned television stations, while we're sitting here, you know, sweating blood to make the payroll and to pay the bills. We need your help. People have said that they wanted a conservative, locally owned news outlet. Here we are. And yet they're not putting their money where their mouth is. Please help us out. Anything that you can do, this is how you can donate. You can stay anonymous. If you say you don't want people to know that you sent the money, we just want the money.
Yeah, so go to thelocalspin.com. You can become a member. You can just donate. You can also become an advertiser. So if you have a business, you know someone that has a business, have them advertise with us. We're in trying times right now, and I think if we don't have more people telling the truth and more people being supported telling the truth, who knows where we'll end up.
Yeah, for sure. So all these people that say they're not going to, you know, they're going to risk advertising with us, I think you're risking the future of this country. And I'm not saying that for self-aggrandizement or anything of that nature. We need conservative outlets and the people who will actually cover the news. Please. We will see you tomorrow.
Yes. Have a wonderful day.
Happy Thanksgiving.